RCHUB International Foundation for Research and Education, and ISO certified.
Am I audible? Sorry, am I audible?
Yeah, audible, sir.
Okay, so well and good. I hope even my slides are visible. Is my slide visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, okay. So well and good. So I think it's time we can start right now. So let me actually in today's session, we are going to cover apart from questionnaire design, development, and validation. I'm also going to give some introductory content about the statistics because within a span of 1 hour, it might be it might be impossible to cover the entire, I mean, not entire, but something related to our research within a span of 1 hour. So I let me try to cover about the question of design, development, and validation, along with some introductory introduction to statistics. Okay, so let's get started. So talking about the questionnaire design, the most important thing is about the questionnaire design should be intact with the objectives. For each and every objective, questionnaire design, I tell you first what this questionnaire design is all about. Generally, if you're into for most of the field in the sense, if you're from education back, if you're doing a research in education background or social science, or if you're doing a research in business research, or if you're doing research in library science, obviously you need to collect a data. You need to collect a data from the sample respondents. That is the primary data, which is using through questionnaire. So questionnaire is nothing but a set of questions that helps you obtain an answer from the sample respondents to answer your research questions. So that is what this questionnaire is all about. So when talking about this questionnaire design, in fact, I would say the questionnaire design is like more of an art, like artistic work. So what you do for an art? So what you do is that you first picturize what you are going to do. And then when after visualizing it, you try to sketch an outline. After you sketching the outline, you try to create a masterpiece, and then finally you color it out. So in the same process, the question designs work. Say, for example, first what you do is that after defining your research questions and its related objectives and hypothesis, you will make sure that for each and every objectives what you have formulated for your study is fulfilled by your questionnaire. That's very important, very important. So your questionnaire for each, there should be a separate section for each and every objective. That is what is my personal suggestion. Say in case if you are doing an engineering based project, say for which you will be doing an experimental research, in which you will be doing a research or collecting the data from a controlled environment, or if you're doing analysis using secondary data. I will talk about this thing in this very last session. Okay, I mean in this session at the last period, the last time. Okay, so because questionnaire design is very important, because in most of the field, mostly 70% of the research field, whether it's in a domain as I stated in education or social science or management or commerce or business or any aspect, the questionnaire plays a very vital role. So when it comes to questionnaire design, the very first thing is that each and every questionnaire design should be aligned with the objectives. Then identifying the target audience, because the very important thing, the very essence of the questionnaire is that you have to collect the data from the rightful respondents. If you could not able to collect the data from the rightful respondents, obviously your research result will mislead, and the most important thing, your findings will become irrelevant. So you should always make sure that you need to identify a target audience who are exactly in match with your research and the question types. And then we will be discussing about the question wordings, which are very important, and the question order. So how to formulate all these things? So let me start with the defining the objective. As I stated before, say for example, let us consider the previous example itself, recruitment and selection strategy. So when it comes to recruitment and selection strategy, I might have 5 objectives: to study and understand. Live with that. That is all about studying. And the second objective is to identify the factors and variables. Leave that, because there you are once again going to identify the factors to analyze the recruitment strategies adopted by the IT industry. Here, for this recruitment strategy, you might be the IT industry might be adopting nearly 10 to 20 different types of recruitment strategies. For example, advertisement on the billboards, advertisement through social medias. They might have nearly 10 to 15 types of strategies. So after identify recruitment is a factor. So below the recruitment as a factor, you might have many sub variables. Say recruitment via advertisement in the newspaper, recruitment via poll agencies, recruitment via third party, recruitment via the fellow employees. So all these are possible. These are different strategies what an IT employee could adopt. Similarly, with respect to selection strategy. So similarly, the selection as a factor, the company, the IT industry or IT company may adopt different selection strategy. For example, only job interview, only personality test, IQ test, or analytical test. These kind of tests will be given, and how far they are scoring with respect to the test. So these are the different types of selection criteria what they could adopt. So first, when you for each and every objective, you need to make sure that there is a factor and associated variables, and these variables are converted into questionnaires. That's very important. So when someone asks, generally, as a what do I say? It's like as a reviewer, of a thesis, what I used to see is that I used to make sure whether all each and every objective what has been stated is being analyzed, and the findings and interpretation were being given or what. So that will be my sharp point of view. So you need to make sure that for each and every objective, the questionnaire is framed, and for those questionnaire, you make analysis and interpretation and provide findings, so that all your objectives will be fulfilled. Apart from that, if you wanted to analyze furthermore, you can make a suggestive analysis. That's not a problem. But you need to make sure that for each and every objectives, the questionnaire is created. That's very important. Next is identifying the target audience. Say, for example, you wanted to know how far the customer is satisfied with online shopping, say online shopping, which is a commerce discipline. So, taking this into consideration, obviously, this previously I talked about business research. Now let us talk about a commerce discipline. So how far the customer is satisfied with online shopping like Amazon, Flipkart, Mitra, and so on. So taking this into consideration, you need to make sure that when you go collect the data from the using the questionnaire, you need to make sure that the respondents have the habit of buying through online. That's very important, right? That's a very essence. Instead of you collecting the data or you are collecting the data using the questionnaire through the respondents who is not at all involved in online shopping, he won't be giving appropriate answer. And these answers conglomeratively will lead you to a wrong result. So you always need to make sure that the respondents or the target audience who you are approaching is a relevant sample for your study. That's very important. So whenever you frame a questionnaire for your research, who is a sample respondent? Consider that, and you need to even sometimes, for example, if your sample respondents have a different kind of vocabulary, it's not up to you the standard what we are in, then you need to make sure that each and every questionnaire is scrutinized according to it. That's very important. So and coming to the questionnaire types, so when it comes to questionnaire design, the very important thing is the question types. So you may ask a closed-ended question, but I would suggest that more than 95%, it is always advisable to have a close-ended question. So I tell you what this close-ended question and what this open-ended question is all about. What is close-ended question? Close-ended questions are questions with an appropriate options. That is what is called as the close-ended questions. And open-ended questions are like, give your suggestion. What is your opinion? So this doesn't restrict us to an option. Here for this kind of questions, we can give our opinion in statements. We can give our solution for a given problem in a statement. So this is what is called as open-ended questions. So closed-ended questions literally means you are, for each and every question, if there is an options, it is closed-ended questions. If there is no options and you are supposed or you are forced to write a statement, then it is called as open-ended questions. It is always advisable to have a closed-ended questions for your research. I tell you why. The very first reason is that if you're going to have a closed-ended options, obviously he will be choosing the most suitable options among the options. What means the data, the question and the data is validated by the respondent. But in case if it is open-ended question, the answer is unstructured. What is unstructured data? Unstructured data in the sense, from the unstructured data, the unstructured data will always have emotions, will always have answers and many things. So in order to derive appropriate options, you need to work out. So it is always advisable to have a closed-ended questions for your questionnaire. That's very, very important. And finally, the question wordings. Uh, I have seen a questionnaire design. Actually, one of my scholar, what he was doing is that he was studying about it's like tribal community people. The tribal community people, for tribal community people, the wordings are very important, right? They are hardly literate, and most important thing is that if you are going to use a very hard words which are completely or sometimes impossible for them to understand, it's not at all going to make sense. Obviously they won't be giving an appropriate answer. So after knowing your target audience, you should change your wordings in such a way that it is easily understandable and answerable. You should not force them to answer something or what you require. You should force them to answer your research questions. That is very important. And the most important thing is that the questionnaire is not a part to show off your vocabulary or your English stance. The very essence of the questionnaire is that the respondents, your target audience, easily able to understand and answer your question. That's the very essence of the questionnaire wordings. And the next thing is question order. Say, for example, the most important thing, if you're designing a question, try to collect the demographic profile. That's very, very important. No, you need to understand what's the demographic, what is the majority of the respondents demographic profile is all about with respect to the study what you're carrying out. That's very, very important. And sometimes it might be an industry profile, sometimes it might be a business profile, it may or may not be required. And then for each and every objective, as I stated before, the questionnaire has to be set down so that the reviewer will easily able to understand that he have fulfilled uh, analysis, he have made analysis using the questionnaire for each and every objective, so we can really grant him a doctorate. So that is what is the beauty. So when it comes to designing the questionnaire, these are the important things what you have to take into consideration. The very first thing, you need to make sure that for each and every objective, I'm not talking about the first two objectives, that is to study or to identify. I'm talking about the rest of the objectives, that is to analyze, to estimate, to to investigate something related to know the impact of this variable on that variable, something related to research gap. All these require statistical analysis and the data collection. So for these objectives, a separate set of questionnaire has to be designed. What is a separate set of questionnaire? Which means the questionnaire should have the appropriate factor and the subvariables converted into question. That is what is the separate set of questionnaire for each and every objective. Second is identifying the target audience. If you could not identify the target audience and collect the data from the target audience, obviously your result and your findings and your suggestion will go completely useless. So always make sure that it is hard. I tell you what, identifying the target audience and most importantly, collecting the data is a very, very, very hectic task. Yet this is the very essence. I tell you what, in fact, if you could able to cross the limit of 385 as a sample size, sometimes the population might be less, but in case the majority of the research of population will be greater than 20,000, which means you may easily able to collect, not easily, you may able to collect a sample of 385, which is a standard sample, minimum sample for even unknown population size. So taking this into consideration, if you know the target audience and if you're able to collect such an amount, obviously it will be of great benefit. And I tell you what, your result will be 90 to 95% accurate with the entire population, that is exact population. So always identify the target audience and collect data only from them, not from anyone else. And the most important thing is question type. Or as I stated before, more than 90 to 95%, you need to make sure that you collect, you make closed-ended question for your study. So what is closed-ended question? It means a question with appropriate options. Open-ended questions, it is advisable, but not mostly advisable, because those are unstructured statements that has emotions, that has answers, that has many things which for which you need to work out. And then question wordings. Know your target audience and frame your wordings accordingly. Don't try to create ambiguity in the questionnaire, because it may sometimes lead to inappropriate answer, or sometimes leads to wrong answer. Because all the time you cannot go explain each and every respondents about what this question is all about, what this question intended to receive. Obviously, when someone reads, he should be in a position to understand, yeah, this is what he's asking, and he should be giving a right answer. That's how the question wording should be. And question order should be, it should start with demographic, and for each and every objective, there should be a questionnaire. And how to develop a questionnaire, that's the very important thing. So as I stated before, it should have a proper wordings, and I stated before, it should have a close-ended questions. And as I told you before, it should be reaching a proper target audience. So in order to develop a questionnaire, you need to draft a questionnaire and you need to make a pilot study. So I tell you what this pilot testing is all about. Pilot testing is all about, you after drafting the questionnaire, get into the field and go to the target respondents and ask them the questions. Give them your questionnaire and see how he answers. See what all the ways where he is getting confused, and try to incorporate changes in such a way that none of the question is being creating a confusion or creating ambiguity. Because if he is your sample respondent, if he is your target audience from whom the questionnaire has to be collected, if he is getting doubt, obviously the same set of sample who is exhibiting a similar what do I say? It's like the similar characteristics. They will be also be getting the same kind of confusion. So always make sure that try to get 30 to 35 samples, or at least 50 samples, because I always advise 50 samples. I tell you why. Because 10% of the population, that is 35, is more than enough. Because I go for 50. It is because within the 35 itself, you may able to understand what are the questions need to be changed, what are the questions should be removed, what are the questions should be added and scrutinized in such a way that your questionnaire becomes crystal clear, and it gives valuable findings and suggestion for the futuristic research as well as for the current scenario. And then finally revise the questionnaire. So this is how the questionnaire development has to be. So drafting the question, don't get down directly into 35 samples, and along with that, don't continue with the rest of the samples. Obviously, your questionnaire will have fault. As far as my experience of conducting many researches, I don't know how many numbers, yet I found most of the time, I found that nearly 90%, I found that whenever someone draft a questionnaire, it will be having a fault. That you may only able to, after meeting with a guide and revising the questionnaire is something different. But getting into the field and getting intact with the target audience and making sure that they understand the question is very, very important. So first of all, after finalizing the questionnaire with your guide, get down into the field and collect as many as 35 to 50 samples, and see whether all your questionnaire are intact or some or requires scrutinization. If it requires scrutinization, it will always have some scrutiny need, and revise the questionnaire accordingly, and then once again collect the data. That is what is my suggestion. So this is how the questionnaire has to be developed and done. So coming to the questionnaire validation. So previously we have discussed about questionnaire design. So questionnaire designing is all about, for each and every objective, the questionnaire set has to be created, and the target audience has to be considered. The question type should be close-ended mostly. Question wording should be appropriate, and question orders like demographic and questionnaire for each objective is required. And questionnaire development, first you draft, do a pilot testing from 35 to 50, and then revise the questionnaire accordingly. And validation. When it comes to validation, questionnaire validation, you can do by lump sum ways, but the most accepted way is the reliability statistics. That we will be discussing tomorrow. I will be explaining how to do the reliability statistics using the SPSS software, that is Statistical Package for Social Science Studies, for the data set. Everyone, please mute yourself, ma. Uh, Everyone, please mute yourself, ma. Okay. So let me talk about the content validation. Content validity is very simple. It's like you going to the guide, and as a subject expert, he will be reviewing the questionnaire, and he will be giving you some suggestion. So this is what is content validity. This is generally, it's like the constructs and the variables, or seen whether it's okay or what. That is what is content validity. And when it comes to the construct validity, here you will be checking the, here also once again the expert will be coming, and he will be checking whether your factors and the variables, or the construct and the below items, both are same. The factors and variables and the construct and items both are same. Don't get confused, ma. Statistically speaking, both are same. So they are all, whether the factor and all the variables within it are okay or relevant or what. This is what is checking the construct validity. And then comes the reliability check using Cronbach alpha test and other kind of analysis. Um, it is this is the most accepted way to tell that your questionnaire, that is your construct, and the items therein are reliable for the current and futuristic research. This is the most accepted way. This I will explain you how to do tomorrow. So then comes the pilot study analysis, that is using the, that is what using the Cronbach alpha test, and reliability using the factor analysis, or like that. In factor analysis, you will be using KMO and ballot test to check whether the construct and all item, for generally reliability, if you are going to check only one factor, the KMO ballot test can be applied. But if you are going to go for multiple factors, obviously you need to go for Cronbach alpha test to check the internal consistency of all the variables.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Hello.
tell me, ma. Yeah, please.
Sir, I'm Chandan Sharma. I want to know about the what is the pilot testing. This is the part of SPSS or another software. Can you define what is the
Actually,
pilot testing?
what is pilot testing? Say, for example, ma, may I know your research study?
Yes, sir. I am a research scholar.
No, I want to know your research title, ma. Regarding what, ma?
Related to banking sector in Uttarakhand district. Uttarakhand.
Okay, ma. So you are going to say, for example, you are going to, who is your target audience, ma? Is it the bankers or the person who is having the bank account?
Bank employee.
Bank employees. So if you are going to check about the employee satisfaction in banking industry, say for an example, so what you will do, you will be framing a questionnaire. You will be framing about job roles and how far you are satisfied with your job roles and responsibility, which is one of the factor. And below that factor, many questions, many variables will be there, that will be formulated into a question. Similarly, how far you are satisfied with the banking rewards and recognition. With that as a factor, you will be having many variables, and those variables will be converted into questionnaire. So first of all, what you do after designing the questionnaire, to measure the employee satisfaction among the banking employees, what you will do, you will go to 35 sample. You wanted to check whether your questionnaire is right or what. So what you do, you go to some of the banking employees and you ask them to answer your questionnaire. After reading the questionnaire, he might be telling that, sir, this question is looking somewhat confusing. Can you restructure these words? Or some bank employees may telling, oh, okay, these are okay, but these questions, I could not get these questions. I don't know what this question is telling about. So after asking their opinion, you will be restructuring those questions. So pilot study is all about you are getting into 35 samples, who is your target audience, prior before you collect the entire sample. Say, for example, if you wanted to collect the data from nearly 400 samples, if you wanted for your research, you wanted to collect data from 400 banking employees. You can't straight away go to 400 employees with your questionnaire and collect the data. First, you need to check whether your questionnaire is right or wrong. So in order to check whether it is right or wrong, you will get to 35 to 50 samples to check your questionnaire is right. If it is right, then you will do the entire study, the original data collection. So pilot study is a miniature version. It's a miniature version of your research where you collect the data from 35 to 50 samples to check whether all your questions, your factors are relevant. All the questions are easy for the target audience or the respondents to understand and answer. Do you got me, ma?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. It's a minute, just like a refine before the starting the
Exactly. It's a
all
miniature
audience
version. It's a
or
miniature version of your
okay.
entire research to check whether your questionnaire is really
Yes,
in a
sir.
good shape, so that if you're going to collect the data using that, it will yield a appropriate result. It will yield a right result. As simple as this, ma. It's a miniature version. Okay, you
Okay,
got me,
okay,
ma?
sir. Okay, sir. Very nice. Very
Okay.
nice.
So
Thank you,
actually,
sir.
yeah, right now, let me go on to the next topic also, ma, because in tomorrow, it's very, very hard for me to cover both the topics at a time. Is this screen visible, ma? Is introduction to statistics, is this screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay. So let me talk about this, ma, because tomorrow uh, we need to discuss. I can't go along with the teaching only. That won't be interactive. Okay, so I tell you what the statistics all about. Many people have told might have told you statistics is very difficult. Statistics is requires lots and lots of mathematical calculation. I tell you what, in today's era, it's very, very, very simple. You believe me or what? If you are going to follow my strategy, obviously the statistics becomes very, very simple. Yeah, I forgot to talk about the secondary data and the experiments. Say, for example, some of you might be an engineering. You might be doing research in engineering. Some might be doing research in using secondary data. Say, for example, with stock markets. So how to deal there? You won't be using the questionnaire, but you will be using the data. So taking that into consideration, there, if you're doing an experiment, you will be collecting the data from a controlled environment. Once again, these data plays a very vital role. If you're going to collect a secondary data, say for example, stock market data. There, you won't be using Cronbach alpha test, there a different test has to be used uh, to check the normality. That's very important. So I cannot teach every domain because I'm trying to cover most of the domain, but let me see. But because in case if you have doubts with your domain, and if I know, obviously I will be answering it, ma. So with respect to the secondary data, there you won't be using the Cronbach alpha test. There you will be using a different test to check the normality of the data. Once the data is are normal, you can go with different types of parametric tests. If the data are not normal, you need to convert the data into stationary. That is, you need to convert the non-normal data into a normal data set, and then you need to perform analysis. But in case if you are doing an experiment, there the normality or abnormality is not at all considered. You should consider the data as it is, and you need to perform the analysis. For that also, you need to choose appropriate parametric or non-parametric test. For that, you need to have some understanding on statistics. So statistics is all about statistics. Generally, when it comes to how the statistics are done, first the data collections are done either by using questionnaire or by using the secondary data what you have already collected from the different sources, or from the experiment what you have collected, the data what you collected, what you do, you organize it in the form of rows and columns, and then you analyze it, you interpret it, and you then present it. So this is what is statistics is all about. So when it comes to statistics, the most important thing is the population sample. I hope you know what this population and sample is all about. For example, if you wanted to measure the customer satisfaction on the e-commerce platform, with respect to India, there are more than crores of users who are using online platform to buy their products. You can go collect the data from 12 crore or 15 crore people. So you need to select a sample in such a way that the sample represents the entire population. That's very important. I told you, right? That sample is nothing but the target audience. If you're going to collect the data from that particular target audience, that answer, the result will represent the entire population. That's how your sample should be. A sample should be the representative of the entire population. And when it comes to statistics, now let's talk about statistics. Statistics is very, very simple, Ma. The statistics, mathematics is a very, very broad discipline, but statistics is not a very, very, very hectic thing. It has only two parts. Either it could be descriptive statistics or inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics describes about how something have happened, how something have occurred. So that is what is descriptive statistics. I tell you what are the things that it used to measure the descriptive statistics. And then comes inferential statistics. That can be once again classified into prescriptive and predictive. I tell you what, this is very, very used in all the disciplines. You won't believe me, this is used even in engineering discipline. Some may use MATLAB to do only regression to forecast it. Even machine learning uses this predictive analytics. I tell you, everything is regression, Mark. Very, very simple. So I tell you what this descriptive statistics is all about. Descriptive statistics generally measures the central tendency distribution or distribution. So inferential statistics can be broadly classified into four types only. Generally, we do statistics only for these four things. Either to find the two variables have association or not, either the two variables have relationship or not, either the two variables, one variable is influencing the other variable or not, or is there any difference between the two variables or not. Let me give an example. Let me, yeah, someone say for example, Selvi and myself, we are running. So we are doing the same actions. Okay, ma? So Selvi and myself are running. So we are doing the same actions. So generally, the speeds are measured in terms of metric data, right? So I tell you what, statistics generally deals with two types of data. One is categorical data and another is metric data. What is this categorical? You might have heard about scale, ordinal, nominal, ratio. Forget about it. This is the secret strategy, ma. Listen to me very carefully. When it comes to statistics, there are only two types of data. Either it could be metric or categorical. Data. So what are the combinations? So what is a categorical data? Categorical data is nothing but male, female. What do you prefer? Tea, coffee. So these kind of categories is called as a categorical data. Metric data is anything that deals with number. For example, if someone asks me what is your age, that will be in numbers. If someone asks me at how much speed you may able to run, it is once again is illustrated in numbers. This much kilometer per hour. If someone asks me what is your income, once again it will be in numbers. So it's a metric data. Or even a Likert scale question becomes a metric data when more than 300 or 385 samples are collected. So these are the important things what you have to consider, Mark. So categorical data or categories, just like male and female, and metric data are nothing but anything that deals with numbers and Likert scale. So what are the combinations? What are the combination? So if variable 1 is categorical data and variable 2 is categorical data, then with respect to statistics, you need to perform significant association test. Very simple, right? When it comes to statistics, everything is categorical data and metric data. And if what are the combination? Either the two data can be categorical, or one data could be categorical and another data could be metric, or both the data could be metric. So both the data are categorical. You need to perform significant association test. I tell you what is significant association test. Say, for example, um, yeah. For example, you are going to a cancer institute. Say you are going to a cancer institute, and in the cancer institute, you are asking two questions: are you a smoker or a non-smoker? Or you a cancer patient or a non-cancer patient? So both are categorical data, right? Smoking, non-smoking, cancer, non-cancer. So taking this into consideration, you found that most of the smokers are cancer patients. So you can say that there is a significant association between smoking and cancer. So you may ask me, sir, we can also say there is significant relationship between smoking and cancer. No, we cannot say. I tell you why. Say the very take the very same example. The Selvi in terms of kilometer per hour. Selvi is running fast, and I'm running slow. Say, for example, he's running at 10 kilometer per hour. I'm running only at 8 kilometer per hour. 8 kilometer per hour, which means we have relationship. We're doing the same action, running, but we have only 80% relationship, which means if Selvi covers 100 meter, I will be covering only 80 meter. If Selvi covers 200 meter, I will be covering only 160 meter. So we have relationship. We have 80% relationship. But in case if Selvi is running in a forward direction and I am running in a backward direction, still we have relationship, but we have negative relationship. Because if Selvi covers 100 meter forward, I'll be covering 80 meter backward. We have 80% negative relationship. Say, for example, population and GDP. As a population, which is a number, increases, the GDP of the country decreases. So this is the best example. If there is significant relationship, you can go for significant impact test also. For that also, both the data has to be metric. And if one data is categorical and another data is metric, you need to perform significant difference test. For example, you wanted to measure the mileage. Mileage is a metric data. It could be 35 kilometer per liter or 25 kilometer per liter. So you wanted to measure the mileage of Activa and Jupiter. Both are vehicles, right? So categorical, Activa and Jupiter are categorical data. Mileage is a metric data. And you have found out that Activa is giving 38 kilometer per liter. And now Jupiter is giving 42 kilometer per liter, which means you could say that there is a significant difference in mileage. So that is what it is. So when one data is categorical and another data is metric, you should do significant difference test. So if two data are categorical, then you should do significant association test. If two data are metric, then you should do significant relationship test or impact test. So as simple as this. Statistics is very, very, very simple. So first, you have to see whether the questionnaire what you ask is related to categorical data or metric data. If both the data, the variable 1 and variable 2 are categorical data, you should be only using significant association test. If one data is categorical and another data is metric, you should be using only significant difference test. If both the data are metric, you should be doing only the significant relationship test or impact test. So what is significant association test? Statistically speaking, it's nothing but chi-square test and correspondence analysis, mark. If you wanted to find a significant association between the two variables, you should do chi-square test. Very simple. Or correspondence analysis. And if if both the data are metric, yeah. If both the data are metric, you should be doing significant relationship test. What is significant relationship test? It's nothing but correlation analysis. If there is correlation, if there is significant relationship between both the variable, you can go for regression analysis also. Similarly, if one data is categorical and another data is metric, you should be doing significance difference test. It could be any test, any t-test. It could be independent sample t-test. It could be ANOVA test. It could be paired sample t-test. It could be one sample t-test. There are various types of t-tests. And there is a separate set of non-parametric tests also, which we'll be discussing tomorrow, Ma, because I don't want to dump loads and loads of information within 1 hour to you. So in today's session, we have discussed about three important aspects: how to design a questionnaire, and then we have discussed about how to develop a questionnaire using, first you need to draft, and then you need to make a pilot study, and finally you have to revise the questionnaire. That is what is the questionnaire development. And we also have discussed how to validate your questionnaire. Either you can do the content validity using your expert or your guide, and then you can do construct validity. You can check whether your factors and items are right or wrong, and then you can also do reliability check for each and every factor using KMO Barrett test that is being done in a factor analysis, or you can do the pilot analysis using Cronbach alpha. But in case if your research deals with secondary data, there you should not be using the Cronbach alpha test. Rather, you should be doing the you should be checking whether the data are normally distributed or not. If you're doing the experiment and if you're going to collect a data, there even the normality test is not at all required. So these are the very important aspect you need to take into consideration. And then we have discussed about statistics. Statistics is very, very simple. What is as simple as that? When it comes to statistics, there are only two types of data: metric and categorical. Categorical is nothing but male, female, coffee, tea. What do you prefer, tea, chocolate, or biscuits? These are the things categorical data. And metric data, anything that deals with numbers and Likert scale based questions. That is all comes under metric data. And when it comes to combination of these data, well, both of the variables can be categorical. At that point of time, you should be testing the significant association between the two variables to know whether using the chi-square test. In case if both the data are metric, there you should be testing the significant relationship between the two variables to identify using correlation analysis. If there is correlation analysis, you can go for regression analysis to forecast also. And if one data is categorical and another data is metric, we should be doing t-test. And there are different types of t-test, and each and every t-test has its own scenario that I will be explaining you tomorrow. So is everything clear as of now, Ma? So as stated before, there are different types of t-test: one sample t-test, independent sample t-test, ANOVA, paired sample t-test. We also have MANOVA, multiple ANOVA. There are various types of t-test that in case of non-parametric test, we will be having Mann-Whitney test, Wilks-Anderson rank test, Kruskal-Wallis test. Most of the time, we won't be using this. It is because if the sample size is less than 30, at that point of time only, we will be going for non-parametric test. If time permits, I will be explaining you this, Ma. Okay. So in today's session, I think this is more than enough. Is everything clear as of now, Ma? Because with these introduction only, tomorrow I'm going to explain explain the SPSS. So is everything clear? Do you have any doubts? Anyone, any doubts, Ma? Anyone?
Sir, which test comes under significant influence?
Regression test, Ma. That is, if
Oh,
it's influence or impact, for both, you have to be using regression analysis. For regression analysis, you may have n number of independent variables and only one dependent variable. Okay, Mama?
okay, sir.
That I will be
Thank
explaining you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, and the beauty of regression is that they use the regression analysis, you may able to forecast. That's, I tell you what, the stock market prediction, everything, what you see, even the candlestick approach, the base is the regression. If you able to, and the thing is that the regression is not just the linear regression. There are different types of regression, Ma. Even using SPSS, you can perform different types of regression that we call it as curve estimates, but that In case if time permits, I will teach you in a separate SPSS session, because within a span of 1 hour, let me teach you the fundamental things what you have to learn in SPSS. But using the SPSS itself, you can perform the sign regression, cubic regression, quadratic regression, logistic regression, power regression, there are other types of nearly sign regression I told, yeah, linear regression, exponential regression. There are many number of regression you can perform using SPSS. Okay, so anyone, any doubts, ma? Is everything clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
so no doubts. Or if I ask question, you will be answering. Even if you have doubts related to these topics with respect to your research domain, you may ask me, ma. Okay, so yeah, just hold on a minute. Let me try to. So when it comes to question, I hope you all know after framing the question, after collecting the data, I hope you all know how to convert those into a proper or appropriate data set. Do you all know that much?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Related to questionnaire.
Actually, the very important thing is that many researchers make this kind of mistake. For example, after collecting the data, they simply consider the data without even seeing whether the data are reliable or not. Say, for example, yeah. Say for example, it's like you need to use the Excel sheet, ma. That's very important. You have to use the Excel sheet at all point of time. For example, if you're going to collect a data using the questionnaire, you have to decode that into numbers. That's very important, right? Because if you're going to use SPSS, or if you're going to use eViews, or if you're going to use PSPP or any AMOS or PLS, any software, obviously you have to recode into numbers, because the software doesn't understand the strings. They doesn't understand our language. They understand only numbers. So when you convert those into the form of numbers, let me show you. Or tomorrow, let me show you. I don't want to dump many things in today's session. Uh, you will be having an unengaged respondents. I tell you what this unengaged respondents is, or the unengaged respondents, or like, say for example, if you ask a question, they will be simply telling agree, satisfied, irrespective of even reading the question. They will be giving the very monotonous answer for every questions. So these kind of respondents are called as unengaged respondents. You have to completely neglect these unengaged respondents. And another important respondents, what you have to completely neglect is the missing values. If any respondents have not given answer for more than 5 questions or 10 questions out of 50, I'm talking about 10% ratio. If 10% ratio, if he is not given more than 10%, then obviously we need to neglect that respondent, which means he is in a dilemma. He's in dilemma to give an answer, or he's thinking about whether do I need to give an appropriate answer for these questions or what. So it is always advisable to neglect these kind of respondents. How
I
to
have a
identify? Yeah,
question, sir.
yeah.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Questionnaire how to make a questionnaire? It's related to variable plus objective, both, na?
It's very simple. Well, let me share my entire screen, ma. That I think through that you may able to understand. Just hold on a minute. Let me share the entire screen. Uh, is my screen visible? I think my screen is visible. Is my screen visible, ma?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a systematic review that I have done recently. So when it comes to review of literature, um, first what you have to do is that you have to set an objective. So actually, this is a systematic of review of literature. I don't want to get confused. Have an objective. For your objective, say for example, there is only one objective: feasibility of shifting construction material transportation from road to waterways. So that's your objective. For that objective, you may have a factor. Set drivers for model shift, barriers for model shift, action to overcome the barriers. These might be the factors, and these might be the variables. And so first, what you have to do is that you might be having a five objectives. So list out the five objectives: one, two, three, four, five. For each and every objective, you will be having a factor. So list that factor. Factor one. For some objective, there will be only one factor. For some objective, there will be two factors. So list down those factors. For each and every factors, there will be a variable. List down the variables. And once the variables are listed down, convert these variables into questionnaires. That is how. Here, for example, emission reduction. For emission reduction, you need to frame a questionnaire. That is shifting from the road transport to ship transport, reduce the emission. Helps in reducing the carbon footprint. Reducing the congestion ratios with respect to road. So similarly, convert these variables into questionnaires. So this is how you have to do. Create an Excel sheet where you need to list down all your objectives and your factors and your variables. For each variables, you need to convert those into questions. So this is a systematic review. I'm just giving a glimpse how, but the columns remain the same. Okay. This is a systematic review done recently that to funnel out what kind of research design has been adopted later. So this is how it has to be. You got me, ma? While designing a questionnaire, always make sure that yeah. Hello?
Yes, got it, sir. Got it.
Yeah. And then after from the Excel, export it to the Word document with the appropriate options to make it crystal clear. And then you go to the go for pilot study, try to revise the questionnaire, and then once again get into the field, collect the real data. This is how the process has to be, ma. It should all start with the Excel sheet. I totally forgot to talk about this. And using the Excel sheet only, you have to complete also. Say, for example, let me share this one. Yeah, not this one. Uh, Yeah, this is the one. This is the one. This is the right example. You see, ma, this is the questionnaire that one of my scholar have done. You see, there are variables. You see, he wanted to do a green HRM. It was related to green HRM, and the factors are employee performance, environmental performance, organization stability. These all are the important factors he have considered for the study. So the thing is that the variables are employee productivity, level of commitment. So what he have done is that he have identified all these variables through the review of literature. After through a review of literature, he have find the variables, and for these variables, it has been transformed into questionnaire. And the most important thing is that once he have done he have created the questionnaire, he also have done what kind of analysis he will be performing it. You see, if one data is categorical in nature with two options, if another data is metric in nature, he should be doing ANOVA test, that is T test. So if one data is say for example, you see, if one data is green HRM, which is a metric data, and another data, employee performance and environmental performance, which is a metric data, then he should, if both the data are metric, he should be doing correlation analysis. If there is good correlation, he should go for regression analysis. He also created a master table of the statistics, what he is going to perform. So this is very important. So whenever, if you wanted to create a questionnaire, start with this. Start with this. Start by identifying the variables, using the review of literature, and frame that into a questionnaire. You see, with the citation, he have identified the variables and made it into a questionnaire. So all these things he have done. So this is a systematic way of doing or approaching the questionnaire. I hope everything is clean and clear, and I showed all possible things as of now. In case, if at all, if you had any doubts in today's session, feel free to ask me now or even tomorrow, ma. Okay? Is everything clear? No doubts, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay, ma. Okay, ma.
It is clear.
So, thank you all. Thank you, God. We see. Take care. Bye, ma.
Thank you.
Contact RCHUB International Foundation for Research and Education. WhatsApp 9888 231 231.